During the winter of 2011, I found myself working at a daycare in Yankton, South Dakota. It was chaos every day. Children were running, babies were crying, kids were screaming, and snot was running. It was the craziest, best place I had ever set foot in. I became Miss Haley and played all day long. We danced, jumped, colored, and played all types of games. I was the teacher in the 1- and 2-year-old room. There was never a dull moment. It was a fantastic ride of crazy fun. One day, the daycare got a new little girl. She was the cutest little girl, shy as could be. Her name was Elizabeth. When she came into my room, I was thrilled. However, I was informed that I would have to watch this special little girl very closely. If she hit her head, I was to document the time and write down her status every hour. I was confused and wondered why. However, I was told her terrifying story. Elizabeth was brought into her daycare by a foster family. She had recently been taken out of her home for abuse. Her father had murdered her 10-month-old baby brother, and she was plucked out of her home. The sad part was the fact that this little girl was probably abused the 2 most important years of her life. When she came into her daycare, she was 2 years old with no language development. She did not speak a single word. This was very shocking to me. Then, I found out that this little girl never cried, no matter what circumstance. I became pretty close to her foster mom, who told me many stories about Elizabeth, otherwise known as E. One of the saddest stories was her first cry. When E cried for the first time, it was a silent cry at home. Her new foster family bawled when they saw this. E was going through all the motions of crying without making a single noise. Imagine that. She was trained to not make a sound. All 2-year-olds are supposed to make tons of noise. That is their job. I was devastated. I became really attached to this little child. Every morning we would cook pancakes on our play kitchen set. It was the highlight of starting my day. I would take her to the kitchen and she would help stir the air in the little tiny plastic bowl. I tried helping develop her language every day. I would take a little time to just work with her and play with her. I wanted to teach her love, because she didn't even know what a hug was. I had so many memories of this little girl who brightened my day up. One day I went and sat by her. I guess I sat too quick and too close because E flinched a horrendous shake. I immediately began crying because my heart ached. From that moment on, I strived to help this little girl understand love and happiness. By the time she left our daycare, she was starting to say words. We got her to say hi, miss, boom, owie, and a few others. I was so happy every time she said a word. We taught her how to hug, and she learned how to blow kisses. This little girl was making leaps and bounds to try to catch up with the rest. E only stayed for a little while in our daycare, but she had a huge impact. The day she left to be placed in her adoption home, I bawled. I became so attached to this little girl. Today, I still keep Elizabeth's picture next to my bed. She reminds me to love every second of the day and everyone in my family and life. She reminds me that miracles can happen, but only if there are people there to make a difference. I will never forget making pancakes every morning or putting E for a nap. I will never forget the first day she said a word or the first time she hugged me. She may have only been a part of my life for a few short months, but she will be a part of my heart forever. So I preach to people to love like crazy and never turn your back on a hurting child. Little kids need your love more than anyone else. Sing like no one is listening, dance like no one is watching, and love like everyone needs it.